Hi, I'm Ryan Miller. I've been at Care2 for almost 6 years now, and before that I was an integrated marketing consultant here in Canada. Thanks so much for spending a couple minutes with me and my colleagues at Care2, Joe and Rhiannon, to listen to us chat about the Outlook report and some of the really interesting questions that have come up because of it. So the Outlook report is a fantastic resource that was put together by us and our partners, HJC, N10, the Resource Alliance, and Extraordinary Fundraising. Let's dive right into it, starting with the Ready section. What we found was that the main challenge for organizations was a lack of resources, both staff and budget. It's probably not a surprise to you, but still interesting that it bared out for both small and large organizations. Perhaps the most surprising data point for us was that 37% of respondents said proving ROI internally was a challenge. Specifically, larger organizations see more of a challenge proving ROI internally than do smaller organizations. It's possible that larger teams might mean more red tape to pass through, while smaller organizations have less red tape and can be a little bit more nimble. Another interesting and glaring conclusion we've come to after analyzing the results is that there's a significant lack of measurement for success in common key performance indicators, otherwise known as KPIs. For example, very few respondents were able to tell us website conversion rates, and many of those people actually said they don't even know how to measure that data point. This is a huge red flag. Proper measurement is critical to understanding and succeeding in digital fundraising. So, takeaways: measure results. Use common KPIs to measure and analyze your results. Otherwise, you're basically driving blind. The second key takeaway: the more collaboration between departments like development, marketing, and communications, the better. You can use tactics like a shared editorial calendar so everyone feels involved and invested. Section 2, Set. Point number 1, visual content continues to be a focus for nonprofits, as does proprietary media such as your website. Point number 2, although we're using more channels, many of us are not actually running well-integrated campaigns. That might be because marketers plan their marketing campaigns without necessarily understanding what drives ROI and aren't collaborating as much as they could with their development counterparts. Point number 3, most of the focus continues to be on mail, email, Facebook, and Twitter. We're not sure, though, if that's because of a measurement and performance-based decision, or if that's simply because these are assumed to be baseline channels with little real optimization and testing happening. This is likely due to some of the points that I just mentioned a minute ago, including staff and budget constraints. Though we ought to add another potential reason for this is skill gaps in analytics and digital marketing. So a couple big takeaways: use a content mix of quality and quantity. Understand that channels that drive performance and impact at your organization, and then build an integrated marketing plan that accounts for the creation, amplification, and syndication of content across all your channels. Section number 3, the final section. So first was ready, second was set, this is go. Point number 1, we're going to invest resources in it, including dedicated resources for lead generation. But we also know that we're not good at determining if and when and how we're effective. Nearly all the respondents of our survey noted a failure to track online conversion rates. Allocating resources to lead generation is only going to work properly if we can become more professional around tracking conversions. For example, 49% will be investing more budget in social media in 2016. 21% will be investing more budget in email marketing. How do we know that those two areas shouldn't be inverted? It's blind investing if we don't know the KPIs and potential ROI for each channel. Care2's clients certainly see that using online pledges and petitions are effective tools to generate high-quality donor leads, but that's only because they're tracking the leads they actually recruited from us. Another point, we saw that persona development is becoming more and more common, though only 23% of respondent organizations have actually created supporter personas to help guide digital strategies. So there's still a lot of room for growth. In last year's report, a direct correlation between organizations investing in personas and citing shorter average conversion times between a constituent's first interaction with an organization and their first donation, plus a shorter time between the first and second gifts. Therefore, persona work can help improve both acquisition rates and retention rates. A couple key takeaways: Design conversion funnels and track those results. Use calls to action, test how many fields to use, learn about them, tailor your communications with prospects to help guide your conversion strategies. Develop personas and use a content marketing strategy to help drive tailored content to prospects and leads to convert them to donors. Remember, final point here, probably the most important point, in the war for more budget, your greatest weapon is going to be measurable results. Thank you so much.
Let's talk technology and tools. Technology and tools power growth. It's one of the biggest drivers in the entertainment industry, music, publishing, financial, retail sectors, and it's certainly one of the biggest opportunities for fundraisers today. Many NGOs are faced with a really daunting task of organising themselves or reorganising themselves internally and externally, rethinking strategies, while at the same time trying to meet extremely steep and challenging targets, but in a very, and we've certainly seen this in the last 18 months, in a very fluid and unstable landscape. This should be seen as an opportunity to develop and embrace the new. It's time to put less faith in the single channel and start thinking more laterally. A lot of organisations are already down this path, but one thing I want to sort of drill down on today is looking at really part of this thinking laterally is starting to think about the tools that we already have and what isn't being utilised properly. An example of a tool that we all have and all organisations have is email, and it certainly isn't being used properly or utilised at all to its potential. The value and power of a decent email strategy to your organisation is easily and often overlooked. Email is still the most powerful tool for engaging your audience and driving action. 77% of the UK population still prefers email as its preferred method of communication, and that's permission-based communication as well. There is a lot of work to do, however. Inboxes are cluttered, so it's a fight to get to the right attention. So investments do need to be made in terms of using the right tools to help you, and certainly developing the right strategy and ensuring that organisations have the right talent to help them do so. Compassion and World Farming UK and Shelter UK are two organisations that I've seen who've really embraced email into their organisations and have developed really solid email strategies. This includes developing a welcome series to their new supporters, taking them on a sophisticated multi-channel supporter journey. For me, it's really seeing more of this, and for charities to be able to develop these supporter journeys with the tools that they already have, where the supporter is at the heart of those journeys. For me, that is one of the biggest opportunities that charities have right now.
Well, it was really interesting to see in the report that 72% of respondents stated that of overall fundraising and acquisition budgets, less than 20% will be earmarked for digital strategy in 2016. And of that, less than 20% will be for online acquisition. In this climate, I find it a little shocking. We hear our street fundraisers called chuggers. We've seen our telephone agencies go out of business. But what we're not hearing about is what comes next and how we're going to fill that gap. With the technologies available today, every new person added to your database could be receiving an email welcome series, welcoming them, engaging them, and then asking them to take action. I wonder how many organisations are actually doing that or are doing it well. I truly believe digital is part of the solution and that online acquisition and email marketing has a transformative role to play. I believe the income opportunity is there for those organisations who are prepared to move away from what they've always done and diversify their fundraising portfolios. So for me, the opportunity is digital.
Building the public's trust again. Forthcoming and often confusing data protection laws and forthcoming and often confusing EU regulation laws are all challenges that lay ahead of us. In addition to these really real challenges, there are others that often get overlooked and are considered to be at times less important. I want to highlight one of these challenges and that I firmly believe needs to be addressed. Did you know that there are 107 trillion emails sent each year? And in total, there are 4.3 billion email users, up from 3.9 billion in 2014. That's more than double Facebook and Twitter users combined. According to the recent DMA report, UK charities spend minimal time on email optimisation and email strategy. And the report cites that almost 8 in 10 spend under 2 hours a week on strategy and reporting. With little strategy and optimisation in place, fundraising campaigns and fundraisers could be at serious risk. And it is this challenge that, for me, needs addressing.
When we talk about challenges, there is one that stands out the most, and that's return on investment. This actually came up as an issue for over 37% of people who took our survey. The challenge here is twofold. Firstly, are there realistic expectations about what's possible? And secondly, do you have the right measures and tools in place to know what's actually working and how this is attributed across your different channels over a reasonable period of time? As a model, return on investment is simple. It's what you spend versus what you get back. Is it realistic to expect a year one ROI? Well, I was at an event last week where one of our clients told me they get a positive ROI within 4 months. That's absolutely amazing. For other clients, it takes longer, but there are lots of influences that you can control. For example, you manage the welcome journeys and the communications you have with that supporter. You can test segmentation, you can test personalisation, you can test different actions that you ask people to take. You also decide if it's an email-only journey or part of a broader multi-channel strategy. What happens if someone sees a TV ad, then receives an email and then gets something through the post? Are they more likely to take an action? You also determine the frequency of the communications. If you see income peaking after 9 months, what happens if you give them that exact same journey but over a shorter period of time? Do you still get the same amount of income but over a shorter time frame? By constantly thinking about the different hypotheses and measuring and optimising, you can refine your activity and see the impact it's having on your results.
When we talk about best practice, it's more than just about the money. It's about developing a supporter-centric communication strategy. What will really help you is to harness the power of effective tools such as email to help you really develop real relationships with your supporters. In terms of best practice, this really is my advice. When developing your welcome series, ask people to do things, and ask people to do things in your supporter journey. Things like petitions, surveys, quizzes work really well and help you build a picture of who your supporter base is relatively quickly. Grow your list, keep your list fresh all the time of engaged and new supporters. Think of email like a digital passport. I cannot underscore the importance of email enough. Build a welcome journey and test different variants. What works for one organisation isn't necessarily going to work for another. And go multi-channel. Just because you found someone online doesn't necessarily mean you need to keep them there. An example of this is Compassion World Farming in the UK. Their aim was to build their engaged online campaigner base, create meaningful conversations with their supporters, and also secure new donors. They monitored their results. Not only were they very impressed with the initial results, they also monitored the results over a 5-year period. In these slides is an example of their very positive retention curve, and these are the results directly from having a very strong welcome and supporter journey. Compassion in World Farming to this day continues to develop, test, tweak, modify their supporter journeys and welcome series.
For me, the key here is about knowing your audience. When I started looking at digital fundraising 10 years ago, we came up with a persona called Susan. Susan was married, in her 40s, had a husband, 2 children and a dog. Susan shopped at Sainsbury's. She was a bit nervous about putting her credit card details online. However, each year Susan did Race for Life and hated collecting money from her friends. She had to keep asking them, and there was paperwork involved. There was this whole thing called gift aid, which she didn't really understand. We spent our time thinking about what could we do to make Susan's life easier. How do we reassure her so she's not concerned about putting her credit card details online? How do we give her the confidence to try something new? How do we make it as simple as possible? I believe that best practice is putting your supporters at the heart of everything you do and creating journeys and experiences with them in mind. In our survey, only 23% of people had created supporter personas to help guide their digital strategy. And I'd suggest investing some time in this work to truly understand the people you're trying to engage and inspire. Thank you for joining Ryan, Rhiannon and myself to hear about the findings from the Digital Outlook report and what we're seeing is the biggest opportunities, challenges and best practices that you can implement today. If you take away just a few points, please let them be that digital, driven by personalisation and segmented email marketing, is a massive opportunity for your organisation. You need to ensure that your digital programmes are supported by measurement and analytics so you can demonstrate return on investment. And that while that immediate conversion may be tempting, don't disregard the 90% of people who won't give immediately. Think about alternative ways to inspire and engage them, and then measure lifetime value. Importantly, compare your lifetime value across products and across channels. We've only been able to give you a very brief overview of the Digital Outlook report today, and there are many more insights we'd like to share with you. Please do download the report and see where you sit within the non-profit digital world. Rhiannon, Ryan and myself are going to be online for the next 10 minutes and would love the opportunity to answer any questions you may have. Again, many thanks for joining our session, and we look forward to hearing lots of great digital success stories. Thank you.